Welcome to SMA's Digital Health and Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Andy Mohan, SMA's Digital Health and Innovation Chair. Today, we are going to discuss NCAA basketball and what's going on currently and coming up with Auburn University's basketball program. We are joined today by the head coach of Auburn University basketball, the great coach Bruce Pearl, War Eagle. Our moderator for the discussion today is our one and only Mr. Dylan Stephenson. Mr. Stephenson is the SMA's Digital Marketing Manager and Sports Correspondent. Mr. Stephenson will moderate our questions for Coach Pearl in regards to Auburn University basketball. Coach Pearl, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to have you join us today for this podcast. Before I hand it over to Mr. Stephenson, I would like to know how you and your family are doing under the current circumstances surrounding the pandemic. Coach Pearl?
Well, great to be with you guys, and Andy, thank you. We're all doing okay. Thank God, my family's been passed over when it came to being affected by the virus. I've got two 85-something-year-old parents down in South Florida that are very much quarantined and being really, really careful. And so life's, slowed down quite a bit for them. And unfortunately, after a basketball season, that's a time when I would always go down and see them. And so I haven't seen them, and I'm looking forward to being able to get down there when they feel comfortable having me. Kids are all okay. My wife's, we're fine. Our student athletes just came back to campus yesterday, having not seen them since March 12th or 13th. So it's great to sort of have that feeling of them being around, and looking forward to being able to progress through the summer and get started at the university this fall.
We're all looking forward to Auburn University basketball to get back, and we were in the Final Four, the previous season, and we were just one game short. So I'm excited personally. I'm a big Auburn fan. I'm an alumni, and we're just looking forward to sports getting back. Period. Dylan, you want to go ahead and take over and go forward with the first question, please?
All right, will do. Again, Coach, thank you again for joining us this morning. So let's just dive right into it. As someone who really loves sports, and especially college sports, and especially March Madness, I, as most of America, were just, devastated by the decision to cancel March Madness and, the rest of the postseason play. And to me, also, I was one of those Americans, I downplayed COVID-19 just like everyone else. I was like, this is just a normal flu-like thing. This isn't going to be anything to worry about. And then to me, when they canceled March Madness, that's when my eyes just really opened up to, wow, this is going to be bigger than what it is. Did you agree with the decision to cancel at that time? And if you didn't, do you agree with it now, seeing how everything has played out?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, the night Rudy Gobert came down with the coronavirus, I think that was the night almost everything changed in our country. That evening, the SEC tournament had begun with the very first round of play. We were not scheduled to play for a couple nights because we had a great season and we got a bye till Friday night. And the very next day, you could tell things were about to change. And by noon the next day, the SEC tournament was canceled. There was talk about playing the game in front of no fans. And as I was beginning to prepare my team about how to defend Missouri or Texas A&M, I myself began to think, what am I doing here? Am I worrying about the wrong things here? I should be worrying about the health and safety of my student athletes. What is this virus? It looks like things are going to change. And so I applaud our leadership, both our commissioner, Greg Sankey, the SEC, as well as the leaders in the NCAA, that made a very bold, drastic, quick, swift decision that we can't play. This needs to be canceled. I felt like it was the right decision at the time. And look, for our student athletes had worked so hard to have that one shining moment. My seniors, it was what they'd worked their whole life to be able to play in the NCAA tournament. Such a big, big deal. So they were really upset and really disappointed. But just like all college seniors that graduated this year, this whole pandemic has put a real hold on the rest of their life. There wasn't that normal interviewing process that took place in the spring where you get those resumes out and people come to campus, you travel over the country and you get that first job. Or for my student athletes, go make a run in the tournament, get a chance to get drafted, or go through the process of trying out for an NBA team and seeing if you can, again, play professional basketball and realize your dream. That stuff is still now all on hold. And so it's obviously it's had a tremendous impact on our country. Just look at the state our country is in right now, economically. The focus on the social injustice. We're in a very different place, and we need to work through this virus. We need to understand who the opponent is, and together we need to do a better job of defeating this opponent.
I'm sitting here talking, and I realized I was muted. Couldn't have said it better myself, Coach. You mentioned your seniors and how their season has ended, especially whether you're in high school or college. This ending of your senior year is not how you pictured it at all. As someone who has seen you speak before, I enjoy your motivational speeches and how emotional you get with your players and what you believe in. How have you kept your team and staff together during this time of uncertainty, especially your seniors on the team thinking that their season's over and not knowing eventually the NCAA is going to give them an extra year of eligibility? How did you handle all of that at that time?
Well, your entire focus is on the team, because when we as a team work together, you as an individual can benefit far more if the team is successful versus if the team fails. And so we work really hard to work together, to play together, to practice together, bring out the best in each other, hold each other accountable, so on and so forth. And we've got to be selfless, and that's your focus in season. But as soon as the season ends, the focus shifts to the individual almost completely. What's best for those seniors? What's best for an underclassman that's looking to maybe try to go test the waters or leave school early to be able to realize their goal and dream of an NBA career? So therefore, during this time, it really hasn't been about the team. It's been about the individuals, my individual coaches and their families and their health. I've not been a huge, hey, we're going to work every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from home, and we're going to have 50,000 Zoom calls, and I want to know what you're doing all the time. You know what? It was at the end of a very long season, where in season sometimes you work almost every day, 7 days a week, as many hours as you can be healthy and effective. So we were exhausted at the end of the year. So the first probably 3 or 4 weeks, I let them rest and let them stay home and do the things that we were all doing. And when we first, were beginning to learn about the virus and the impact it could have. And then as we began to try and figure out a way forward, we stayed in, we were texting, we were calling, we were having Zoom contact, we were reaching out to each other, touching one another in a way of how everybody was doing, setting things up for the seniors to be able to work through the process of what's next, getting the guys to focus and finish up academically, because classes did not stop. Teaching became online, and our guys had to get through a spring semester, which they all did really, really well. And I credit, they say it takes a village in a lot of ways when it comes to the academics and the progress towards degrees. I'm very proud of the fact that for 4 straight years, Auburn has been perfect when it came to academic performance ratings. Perfect. 10% of all Power 5 men's basketball programs, 10% are perfect in a year. We've been perfect for 4 straight years because of a real commitment from our student athletes, our coaches, and our student academic support systems at Auburn. And that had to continue. We couldn't stop going to class. And so that became a focus. And then, obviously start to prepare to return to campus, to start to prepare to resume athletic activities, obviously for their health and their safety and their well-being of the mental health and physical health. We got to get back to playing as soon as we can, safely, and making sure we're conscious of everybody's health. And that's sort of the transition that we're in right now. As I said, my student athletes return to campus this weekend.
Coach is dropping wisdom bombs over here. I'm loving every second of it. So I want to go into your faith. I've seen articles on it. I was preparing for this podcast, I was reading an article from USA Today where you had made it clear that you would love to become the third Jewish head coach to win a title. And also I saw where you won USA the gold medal at was it 2009 Maccabiah? If I said that right, correct me if I'm wrong, games. I would love to hear how you put your faith into your coaching, because as someone who grew up in the South, especially with, having different coaches at many different levels of my athletic career, faith was always put in there no matter what. So I would just love to hear how you twist the two into one.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I don't know that we have enough time in the podcast to really cover it all. But again, I guess I'm grateful for the question, and I guess for the opportunity. I'm working with young people. I'm trying to make a difference in young people. And I used to think that I could teach Helen Keller to read, but it really wasn't me that could teach her to read. It was God using me as a teacher and as a coach to try to work with young people. And so as I've gotten closer to God and as I've gotten older, I realized that I'm his servant, that he put me in this place to be able to make a difference in the lives of our young people. And so, yeah, I can do some things on the basketball court, and we can visit and build relationships, so on and so forth. But you know what? These young people are going to be away from me a lot, and they've got to be able to make decisions. And so the answer is, what would God have you do? Like, what would he have you do in this moment as it relates to doing your own work? Or does he want you copying somebody else's paper? Does he want you late for class? How does he want you treating women? What kind of a son does he want you to be to your parents? Everything. So it's not just me. It's what would God have you do? What would our Father God have us do? And that's sort of been a great way to help guide a young person to try to be the best they can be. He's got goals and dreams, and it's going to take discipline. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take a commitment. You got to get your rest. You got to get up early. You got to train. You got to stay away from certain things. How do you get yourself to do all that stuff? It just can't be the end result. It can't be just a reward. It's got to be in service to God, to give him then the glory. Just give him a chance to bless you as you go through this. And so that's how we've woven the coaching, teaching aspect of it. But the other part of it, for me is I'm 60 years old, as you can tell by this new white beard I'm sporting. It's my COVID look. It's a little bit my Moses look, right?
Yeah.
So being born in 1960, I saw racism. I saw forced busing. I saw racial riots. I saw white versus black fights in school for no other reason than the fear of the unknown, not knowing one another, not having enough exposure to one another. And of course, in sports, we are colorblind, except in this way. If I'm going to pick my team and we're going to be wearing white shirts and you're going to have your team and you're going to be wearing blue shirts, I'm going to do everything I can to pick the best white shirts, regardless of race, color, religion, creed, or whatever, because we're going to kick the crap out of you guys in blue shirts. So I see color. But we don't see color when it comes to being teammates. And we gain respect for one another, for one another's abilities, but also for one another's weaknesses, for one of our strengths, but our frailties. And so our kids that are playing sports could teach us adults a lot about the ability to kind of get along, see color, but see it in the right ways.
Yeah.
And so, you know, sports has been able to bring us together because of being on teams and being a part of one another. The same thing is true with religion. I went to Boston College. I didn't go to Boston University. BC is a Catholic school, a Jesuit school. Boston University was a private school, but there was a very large Jewish population from the Northeast that went to BU. I went to BC partly because it was a little better school in football and basketball, and I was an athlete, but partly because I wanted my Catholic or Christian friends to get to know a Jewish person that they probably had never been exposed to and realize how much we have in common. Think about putting teams together. How much do we have in common? And then how can we move forward with that? For me, Abraham's the father of all nations. He's the father of all nations. He's my father. He's a Christian's father. He's a Muslim's father. Doesn't that make us brothers? I don't understand that. If Jesus was born a Jew, Jesus was a rabbi from the time he was born to the time he was crucified. Does that not make me as a Jew a brother with my Christian friends? Their God, Jesus. Why? So why do we have this anti-Semitism? Why do we have this intolerance of a difference in the way we love God or practice our own religions? We should celebrate the differences and the diversity and the commonality of it. And so how do I interweave faith in my coaching? It is who I am. And it would be a lot easier to be in the closet, and it would be a lot easier to not have my Jewishness out there in front of everybody, because it doesn't always help me in recruiting based on, stereotypes that exist. Well, guess what? I ain't hiding in the closet. This is for better or worse.
Beautiful. Amen
Coach,
to
I
that.
appreciate you. Coach, I appreciate you speaking the word. I loved everything you just said. I love what you stand for. And just to put context into it for everyone, I mentioned, and I want to make sure I'm saying it right, the Maccabiah, is that how you say it, Maccabiah?
Yeah, it's the Maccabi Games, or
Maccabi.
it was actually the games themselves called the Maccabiah. You're saying it right.
Okay. And if everyone doesn't know essentially what that is, that is basically the Olympics for people of the Jewish faith. And
Excellent.
how was that coaching the USA team through that? Was it different than, going through normal, college basketball coaching? Was it just the better experience having your faith more involved with these games than just a normal basketball game?
Well, what it was for me as a basketball coach, our jersey said USA. It said USA. It didn't say anything about anything else. It looked just like the Olympic jersey because we were representing the United States of America. So it was about as American as you possibly could get. So for me as a basketball coach, I might never get to coach I'm not ever going to get to coach in the Olympics. I've not been asked to coach one of the USA basketball teams. I'm not accomplished enough a coach to have, I guess, qualified for that. That was a little sarcastic in case you didn't notice that. But I guess I was a good enough Jewish basketball coach to coach the USA team in Israel. So first of all, pride in my country, pride of being representing the United States of America. That's number one. The second thing would be then to go to Israel and take over a team of young Jewish boys or young Jewish men, one of whom was my son, Stephen. And knowing that experience in Israel, getting to know our Jewish homeland, was going to make them a better father, going to make them a better husband, going to make them a better Jewish man trying to navigate when they come back home, and that whole experience. And then, of course, the third aspect of it was the basketball itself. And we were able to play Israel in the gold medal game. And fortunately, I can tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that Israel doesn't lose at home very often. Thank God for that, right? But on that particular afternoon, and I like to tell this joke about the fact that the referees in the game were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we were getting completely screwed by these three Israeli officials. They weren't that bad. And but we won the gold. We won the gold medal in overtime. And I had a great group of kids. Be forever grateful, but what a wonderful experience that was.
And just so you know, I am totally going to put a USA chant behind that audio clip because I just felt the America spirit in me when you were speaking. So we're going to shift.
We were draped in the flag, man. We were. I mean, it's just an incredible honor.
Awesome.
So we're going to shift more into the sports area. Now we're going to get away from personal stuff. So, again, we saw the end of this season come to a close abruptly. And, especially coming off the previous season where you were in the Final Four, where you were robbed, in my opinion, just saying. But we'll move on from that.
I agree.
So we're going to talk about how the upcoming season, because I know you said your kids are coming back, or not your kids, your guys are coming back today or yesterday, and how is the season going to go? How is the season going to go with recruiting, conditioning? And side question on that: have you been able to recruit, and has it been more virtually, or were you able to go in person? Things like that.
We've been shut down completely since March 12th. There has been no off-campus recruiting. There's been no visits to campus, and there still isn't. And we're in what we're calling the dead period all the way through July 31st. The NCAA council, one of the major counselors, are going to be having some announcements on June 17th, just as we speak here, and they're going to be talking a lot about what's next. They've got a lot of decisions to make. What are they going to allow us to do in the summer? What are they going to allow football to do? When guys are going to come back? Return to campus is a big topic right now. How do we return? How do we return safely? Our guys returned, but they returned for voluntary workouts, which included right now just strength training, conditioning, and doing things on their own. Right now, us coaches have not been able to be on the floor with them. Typically, in June and July, men's basketball, men's and women's basketball, and football, we've actually got an opportunity to be on the floor with the kids for a few hours a week. And that's been a real benefit for their training, for their own safety, and really their health, and obviously living their dreams and goals, getting them in summer school, keeping them productive throughout the summer, keeping them safe. There have been some real limitations placed on what we can do. And I understand that. A lot of it has to do with COVID and the virus and what's safe as far as return is concerned. So right now, that's the state we're in. The guys just came back, and we've got a couple of weeks of what we're calling phase one, phasing one back into activity with the doctors and the strength and conditioning coaches being the only ones involved right now. The kids are able to get some shots in their own, no pickup ball, no one-on-one, no playing. And we're really making the guys adhere to these rules. But I'm hopeful now, after this 2-week period, that they're going to begin to let our guys to start play. I can tell you that right now, my guys all returned to campus. They were all tested for the virus. None of them had it. And of the 14 players tested, 1 had the antibodies. 13 did not.
Wow.
So right now, our cocoon, we are in a good place. And I'd like for them to be able to loosen the rules. And our coaches are all COVID-free also. And so we're in a good place right now. If they'd allow us to start to work with these kids and keep the outside elements outside, I think we can do it safely. If they don't let us begin to work with them, the guys are going to go find pickup games off campus. They're going to go wind up doing things that they ought not to be doing, and then therefore put themselves at risk. So we'll see. We'll follow whatever guidelines and rules they give us. We're hopeful they give us the kind of rules and guidelines that are realistic for the student athlete's health, safety, and well-being.
Excellent.
So I know earlier you mentioned, you gave them a time of rest where, you weren't bugging them, every day, what are you doing or anything? But was there a point of I would hopefully that you're up working out or, running, doing something physical to try to keep them in shape during all this? Because I know for me, not having the gym for, a month or two was awful, and me having to try to come up with at-home workouts and things like that were especially tough, were you essentially on them to be like, please make sure you are still trying to get involved and get, exercise and not become a couch potato?
Yeah, at first it was all about shutting down and paying attention and listening and really being stay at home and really being safe. And then once things began to open up a little bit, I didn't want to put too much pressure on them, because the more pressure I would have put on them to get in the gym or get worked out or do this or do that, the more risk they may have taken by being exposed to some things that they shouldn't have gotten exposed to. So I actually took the other approach. I tried to not put pressure on them, not send them all kind of workouts to do. And yeah, we talked about trying to stay in shape within the limitations. We talked about being outside. We talked about washing your hands and keeping your face covering on. And, when you would go into places where there aren't a lot of people, and a lot of things to the social distancing aspect of it. What do you do to prevent yourself from getting the virus and getting the flu? But I kind of went the other way with it. Now, as we got out about let's say 2 or 3 weeks ago, when things opened up, then I began to encourage them to try to get back into some shape, so that when they returned to campus and they got in the weight room, they wouldn't be so sore they couldn't walk for a week.
I like it. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can say if I had a coach that did that and was bugging me the whole time, it'd be like having dad 2.0 over me the entire time. I'd be like, well, no, I'm just going to sit at home and do nothing. So yeah, I like the approach you took there. I'm going to finish up with one question. As a coach, as a coach / mentor, what is one thing you would love for your players to look back on and to think about their time with you, from lessons, morals, values, anything?
Well, I think the number one thing is, Coach Pat Dye, the great legendary Coach Pat Dye, who was the heart and soul of Auburn University, who just passed recently. Now, he said you can coach them as hard as you love them. And so I want to be able to coach them hard enough for them to be successful. So therefore, you got to find ways to love them. Everybody's got different love languages. One of the love languages that your wife may have is time. If you don't spend any time with her, it's hard to love her in that way.
Yeah.
And so I got to spend time with my players and find out what their love language is, and it's because I'm going to coach them hard. Typically, if you've got a father in your life, like you said, dad 101 or 202, whatever it is, typically if you've got a dad in your life, you listen to him. You won't always agree with him, but sometimes you'll probably put up more with him than you would anybody else. So your dad could say stuff to you that nobody else could say to you, because he knows he loves you. He cares about you. He's got your best interest. So you know what? You'll tolerate him. So I need my players to tolerate me. But I want them to walk away going, I had as high an expectation for them as anybody's ever had for them, in almost every way. As a person, as a son, as a teammate, as a student, as an athlete, I set the bar really, really high. Attainable, but really high. I don't want them to settle. I want them to be the best that they can possibly be and enjoy the process, and give them a fighting chance to go out there and have some success and have some happiness. Life is difficult. One of the reasons why I've gotten closer to God over the years is really to help me navigate through the challenges of life. When people go through great pain, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, something health related, it almost kind of remember the movie with Julia Roberts when she was sick and Sally Fields was trying to talk her out of having a baby and getting pregnant because her body couldn't have it. She had kidney problems. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
You are making a Steel
Magnolias
reference right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What she said to her mother was, "Look, Mom,
I just want to hit somebody till they feel as bad as I do. I just want to hit something. I want to hit it hard. Here, hit this.
Go ahead, Malin. Slap her.
Are you crazy?
Wait, that doesn't look right. Let's try again. Now that's better.
I need your support. I would rather have 30 minutes of wonderful than a lifetime of nothing special.
I'd rather have a period of something special than a whole life of nothing, than just vanilla. And so I want the great highs. I want the thrill of victory. But if I want that thrill of victory, I got to be prepared for the agony of defeat. I've got to be prepared for that as well. And I'd rather take the highs at the cost of having the lows than have a life full of vanilla. I need to prepare my guys to be able to have a chance to have a life full of highs, because there are going to be lows. The less they're prepared for the challenges that life has for them, the more lows they're going to have. So I want them to prepare, and I want them to get ready for what it's going to be like. I want them to represent the name on the front of their jersey. I want them to represent the name on the back of their jersey. And I want them to understand that we can make a difference, that we will make a difference, that we need to make a difference. And that's the opportunity. And so I guess those are the things I want them to remember. And if they can remember a couple of championships along the way, that'd be great too.
Yes, sir. Well, those are the end of my questions, Coach. I just want to say I appreciate you being honest and open about everything. I can't say the WE words. I can't do it. I saved it till the end. I'm an Alabama graduate myself.
Hey, I could say roll tide as easily as I can say warrior. I can say it. I just don't mean it as much.
See, I grew up in a divided household, and once you take that stance, it's one of those things you can't go back on it. I have much respect for Auburn, but roll tide at the end of the day.
You do know this. You do know this. You can't spell roll tide without two L's, don't you? You understand that?
Touche.
There you go.
Touche.
Hey,
That's awesome.
It's a great rivalry. Again, you know what it is? It's about respect. It is. It's about respect. I think the rivalry is so good. So whether or not we want to realize it or not, I think there's a lot of respect that goes both ways. So that's what makes a great rivalry.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Right now, we're a better basketball team, though. We are the better basketball team. Just saying.
I mean, I can't say much on that end because it's low key true.
Go ahead. This year, Nate Oates has got that team right and ready. They got a chance to win the league this year. So the Alabama's really good. They're going to be really good this year.
I'm excited. I'm excited to what he's going to bring to the table. I think he's going to bring something that the Alabama has really needed on the basketball team. So I'm very excited.
Well, Coach Pearl, that was incredible. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Mr. Stephenson, for moderating today's discussion. As an Auburn University alumni, it's definitely a huge treat for me to have you on our show. Before we wrap this up, I have one last question for you, Coach Pearl. Can you give us a Bruce Pearl, that we can hold near and dear to our hearts during this current pandemic? Something positive with all that's going on. Coach Pearl, please.
Here it is. Adversity, it reveals character. It doesn't just build it. So when times are difficult, your character is going to get revealed. Times are difficult. Let's show your good character.
God bless you all. Thank you. War Eagle. Well said, Coach Pearl. We love it. Thank you so much.
War Eagle.
War Eagle, guys.